Hi, welcome to STEM Family Camp. I'm here today, Ann Vogel. I am the Senior Vice President of iBio Educate Center. Welcome to STEM Family, and welcome to our first panel discussion. We have three amazing panelists here to speak with you about what you can do to continue to be involved in STEM and hopefully go on to a future career in STEM. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to introduce our panelists really briefly, and then they're going to give you a little bit more information about their education and background. First up, we have Kelly Culler. She is Principal Scientist of Abbott Diagnostics Division in Abbott Diagnostics Division. We also have Michelle Rivas. She is the Manager of Rare Diseases, Communications and Social Media. And we also have with us Jodi Small. She's a Quality Assurance Specialist at Abbott Laboratories as well. So welcome, panelists. Why don't we begin with Kelly? Can you give us a little bit more background than just name and title?
Yep. So I am a scientist, like Ann had mentioned. I'm different than Michelle and Jodi because I think I may be the only bench scientist on the panel, meaning that I do go into the lab every day. Wear the lab coat, wear the goggles, wear the gloves. That's pretty much my life. So I don't have to dress nicely to come to work every day. And I work in an infectious disease group. And what we do is we make assays that can detect whether or not you've had the infection by taking a sample of your blood. And then we make tests to be able to detect if you made antibodies. So if your body has seen a pathogen like a virus or a bacteria or another type of bug, your body will have an immune response where you can make antibodies to this. And what we do is we make tests that can detect those antibodies. So that's about it in a nutshell. Do you want me to answer more questions about?
Yeah, what degree do you have and where did you go to school?
Yep. So I have an undergraduate degree from Stetson University in Florida. It's a very small school down there. My degree is actually in biochemistry. And then I came to the Chicagoland area for graduate school where I got a PhD, a doctorate degree from Northwestern. I went to one of these, what they call these umbrella programs where you can specialize in everything from neurobiology, so studying how the brain works, to what I did, which was infectious disease. So technically, I'm a virologist, if you've heard of that term, so a person who studies viruses. I've studied everything from hepatitis virus to now I work on coronavirus. So a little bit of everything in between, A to Z, and Zika too, throw that in there as well. So yeah, I get a lot of exposure, not infection, but a lot of exposure to different viruses. The fun thing about my job is it's always changing. We're always on our toes to make a good test that we can put out there for people to be able to see if they've had the virus. So a lot of my job is learning how can we best do this? What's the unmet need? How would a doctor need this? How would a patient use this test? So we really dive into understanding the virus, how it infects you. Maybe the blood isn't the best thing to be testing. Maybe, you can hear recently with coronavirus, a lot of people get that Q-tip shoved up their nose because the virus is found in your snot and your saliva. So we have to really understand how these viruses work and where they want to infect you to understand how can we build the best assay to detect the virus and help you. But like I said, I'm in the lab every day. It's exciting. And I'm pretty sure I always wanted to be a virologist, strangely enough, mainly because one of my brothers got real sick with meningitis when I was younger. And so I think it just opened up my eyes to understand that, or to realize that, there's these things you can't even see with viruses and bacteria that can cause that much, damage and heartbreak. I mean, my brother ended up being fine, but that was kind of my first exposure to, having somebody in my family affected by an infection like that. And so, I got interested at an early age, like in high school. I think my background was I I liked chemistry a lot, and I like to make like soaps at home, and I thought, okay, I would like to make be an organic chemist and maybe make like lotion or something like that. But then I got exposed to learning about virology, and I think that really just kind of put a hook in me, and I went on and kind of focused on that, like realizing that I didn't want to be a medical professional because I don't know, just being that close to people wasn't my thing. I don't think I have good bedside manner. Um, but I wanted to learn more about what was causing these problems. And so, that's why I studied biochemistry, which I think is a really good foundation, or biology even, and then segued in graduate school into going a lot deeper into understanding the virology and the bacteriology side of it.
Well, that's super relevant background, considering, a lot of our families are just coming off of, school learning for the last, many, many weeks at the end of school. So super interesting background. Thank you. Michelle, I think we'll go to you. Can you give us a little bit more detail about your job, what it is that you do, and a little of your education background?
Yeah, my background is not as clinically relevant as Kelly's is, especially with coronavirus happening right now. But I manage rare disease communications and social media at Horizon Therapeutics, which essentially means that I'm a rare disease storyteller. I went to Millennium High School in Goodyear, Arizona, if anybody has ever heard of that. I also went to Arizona State for my undergrad, which I ended up graduating in journalism and mass communication, but had done some studies in kinesiology. And I'll talk a little bit about my kind of career pathway later on. And then I came to Chicago for my master's at DePaul University to study health communication. So somewhere along the way, I realized I did not love working with patients. I did not love biology and the actual mechanics of the body as much as I liked talking about it. So my background kind of led me to this communications focus, and it's critical now, with so many different diseases, with so little awareness around rare disease. There's a really delicate way we can talk about it, and also giving folks the agency to then speak about their own rare disease is something that I'm really passionate about. So I guess communication is something I have always loved, and medicine just kind of flew into it. So.
You're right. It's so important to be able to advocate for yourself and understand, complicated disease processes so that you can make good health decisions. So that's definitely a really important job. And I think probably one that a lot of us don't think about in terms of a STEM career. So it's really unique. I appreciate you being here today to share your story with us. So we'll turn to you, Jodi. Can you give us a little bit of background for us? That would
Sure. So hi, my name is Jodi Small, and I also work at Abbott Labs. In my current job, what I do is I also work for the same division as Kelly. So I help in the process that manufactures all of the different tests that we make for all of the different diseases. But what my focus is more on the process. So I look into what's broken in any of our processes, how can we fix them, and how can we make them even better. So it's taking that technical knowledge of knowing what needs to happen and then figuring out how do we get there. So I came into this job so I grew up in South Florida, and I went to Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland. And then after that, I went to WashU in St. Louis. So I've been slowly making my way northward and westward. And then I ended up in Chicago after doing a rotational program with Abbott. So I actually moved around to a few of our different locations throughout the country for 2 years, and then settled here at our diagnostic site. And then I think that what brought me into this field is I studied engineering in college. And so I really enjoyed the concept of being able to build something new and being able to really take what you learn in school with math and science and turn it into something real, turn it into something that you can touch and see. And so it's great to be able to help do that at Abbott now.
Thanks, Jodi. So Michelle, Kelly, you had a really personal reason, it sounds like, for getting into virology and ultimately leading you to work on coronavirus. So I'm just wondering, Jodi and Michelle, other than like a love of the content area, was there a certain spark or, a teacher or anything, or was it just kind of serendipity? One experience after another just kind of led you to study STEM. And then also, Michelle, for you, the journalism side with healthcare being a focus.
I can go first. Sure. So I think that something that really inspired me to go into engineering, no one in my family was an engineer and I didn't really know what it meant. But I really enjoyed growing up. I was super nerdy as a child, and my parents helped me pursue like computer programming classes. So I got to learn a bit more about like how to think logically. And I think that that really spilled over into how I approach school. So then when I took biology in high school, I thought that that would be a really cool way to go into biomedical engineering and sort of bring together the logical thought process that I like always used to think things through, but then also with the life sciences part and seeing something that can really help and impact people. Michelle, how about you? Yeah, so on my side, I was always interested in health when I was a kid, and my family is Hispanic, so unfortunately I saw a lot of really poor health outcomes from some of the lifestyle choices that my family were making. So early on, I was kind of brought up sort of within the hospital. That was just a place you visited family members, and learning more about the care that they needed really inspired me to spend more time focusing on health. And so during college, I had a professor who, had known that I had switched my major around a little bit. I was taking these intense biology courses while still technically under a journalism degree, and not really understanding what I was going to do at the end of the day. And really trying to figure out what I wanted to do when I graduated, because I loved, learning about the mechanics of the body, and I had a lot of empathy for patients, but I really didn't understand how that all kind of fit in together with journalism and public relations and communications and the photojournalism classes I was taking. It just kind of didn't marry together until I had a professor who mentioned that there's something called health communication. And you can study cultural competency in healthcare. You can study bedside manner. You can study really complex health information, and then translating that into kind of a consumer's voice, something that people will understand, something that everyday layperson can actually read. So for me, that kind of hit the light bulb on, you have a passion for writing, you have a passion for communication, but you also have kind of a need for really technical knowledge, and taking that and translating into something that people can understand.
I think that's a really important point, probably, and really interesting that, I think there's an impression that young people have, I always knew what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I think it's important to share stories that we don't always know. And sometimes we know what we like-ish, but not necessarily, there's not like necessarily, while you're going through your training or education, an obvious job title for that, right? Mm-hmm. So it sounds like, you all have somewhat created your own opportunities, which I think is great. And I think also, like, in times of economic crisis, like we're currently finding ourselves in, there's even more pressure on young people to have a sense of what they want to do that's going to be a job that's going to pay. And so, but you need to give yourself the space to find something that you really love, right? So it sounds like you all three have, so I'm super excited about that. Let's see. So Kelly, I'm wondering, you are a bench scientist, and also, Jodi, your engineering background. I'm just wondering, a lot of people do not think of women still, unfortunately, in technical degrees and technical areas. I'm just wondering if there were any challenges you faced either through your education, or maybe you wouldn't even call them challenges, but just things that were different for you as a woman in STEM fields.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good question, because, you think of, if you close your eyes and you think of like, what does a scientist look like? Chances are you're going to think of a stuffy man with white hair and, crazy glasses. I feel like that impression has really changed, and I've been exposed to enough different scientific fields to say, yes, like some are very, very focused on, the male dominance of people involved in them. And then other ones, particularly what I'm involved in, more life sciences, it seems to be more female heavy. And I also felt that way in graduate school too, that there was a pretty diverse mix, not only of people from different backgrounds, but also, a mix of male and female as well. And I wouldn't necessarily say that that gender was, an obstacle. I think some things that can be obstacles is just, understanding what opportunities are out there for you and how to get into them and how to take best advantage of things that are presented to you. Because I think like all three of us kind of tell a similar story that, it wasn't like eyes on the prize the whole time. It was more so you need that time to really understand what you like and what you don't like. And, how can you foster, figure out what you like, and how do you foster the development of trying to segue into a career that you're going to want to come in and do every day, and you're going to want gratification from that. And I think that, that kind of is an obstacle for a lot of people, is just finding, the right opportunities. And, a lot of this is also learning, don't be afraid to put challenges out there in front of yourself. Don't always take the easy way out. If you're interested in something and, realize it's going to be a difficult road to get there, you still, take that road, try that road and try to get there, because I think it'll pay off in the long run.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Kelly is saying. I think that sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And a big part of it is exposure. So then how do you learn more? How do you find that out? One thing that I think really helped me throughout this process is finding mentors, or finding like clubs that I could join to meet new people that I didn't already know, and that I could ask them, and sort of doing things like this, like hearing from other people with different experiences and learning about how they got there. I think that that's huge. And so, for example, when I was younger, like when I was in college, for example, I joined the Society of Women Engineers. So it was a group where I could mix with other people who had similar interests to me, where I could sort of learn about like what they wanted to do and how they got into their jobs. And even at work, we have a similar club just within Abbott, where I can meet other people like Kelly or like Michelle who are interested in STEM, but are, in different areas. So I can continue to learn about what else is out there.
Michelle, would you like to add anything on there?
Yeah, I think kind of going off of what Kelly had mentioned too, and, kind of creating that space of not always knowing exactly what you wanted. I know my career path has been it hasn't been linear. I will say I've taken some different kind of odd roles where, I wanted to try something new. And I think that's very much consistent with my personality. I like to be challenged. I don't want things to feel stuffy. I want to take something and make it my own. And that's, just a way that I am, which I'm sure a lot of you are very similar in that regard. But, I think it's really important to find something that you're passionate about and find something that you're going to enjoy doing every single day. And I had taken a job where I was working in veterinary medicine, still doing communications, but I was talking about veterinary oncology instead of talking about human healthcare. And there's just different opportunities, I think, that, you might not necessarily understand from the get-go of here's this career path that I want to take, but each opportunity that you do take is really going to get you to the next opportunity, and it's going to introduce you to new people. It's going to open up new doors for you. And going on the mentorship path, I've had incredible mentors pretty much my entire career. And even from the early internships that I had in college, another random job I worked in was for a power company in Arizona. I was their health and wellness intern. So I helped communicate their health and wellness programs to the, neuro or the physicists that they had, the astrophysicists, all the way down to the linemen that were kind of working on the poles and making sure that everybody had power. So being able to learn how to communicate to different audiences was something that has stayed with me throughout my entire career. And my boss from that simple internship, 10 years ago is one of those people that still, remains in my life and I can call upon for questions. So I think those relationships and pursuing opportunities that are going to build new relationships is really important.
So all three of you are highlighting relationship development, which is more of a soft skill, right? Like even though you work in hard science fields, communication and the ability to connect and network is still key, right? So I wonder if, you mentioned clubs and you mentioned internships, and I wonder if you have any concrete advice for, I got my first internship because I sat at a bus stop next to the professor I went to work with and refused to let him get on the bus until he I'm not sure that would work for everyone. So I wouldn't give that as a piece of advice, but is there some advice that you have that would be concrete advice for helping people make those connections? I think people without connections have the hardest time getting started, right? So what are some things that maybe it's something that parents can do to help their children who are interested in STEM, or maybe it's the kids themselves?
Yeah, I think that everybody has a network, right? And everybody has a network that has a network. And I think it's just a matter of, a lot of times people won't seek you out unless you say that you're looking, right? That you're looking for opportunity. And, whether it be, you go to like a family member's church group or something, and, they just start spreading the word. I think really that's what you need. Michelle brought up that person that can serve as your mentor, but, you also need like an advocate as well. Somebody that can say, oh, so-and-so's a good kid, this might be a good opportunity, or, they can learn pretty quickly, or they're excited about a lot of stuff. And really, you just need that one foot in the door somewhere, and to have somebody just speak up for you for something, so, as a parent, if you're kind of looking for those opportunities, you just never know. Somebody may have a relative that works somewhere, or a different type of connection that I think there's just a lot of opportunities around the Chicagoland area, where internships exist, or, some entry work as well, and it's just a matter of having somebody beside yourself speak up for you and can speak to your credibility.
One thing that I would recommend is, especially if you want to have a parent help you, is looking at LinkedIn to see if there's someone who either went to maybe their college or who's from your same town that might have jobs that are interesting to you. I think people are really receptive when you reach out asking for more information. So I think that they would really be open to setting up a phone call or setting up like a day of shadowing. Like, for example, when I was home in between years at college, and at first I thought I might wanted to do something that's like fitting prosthetics for people who are missing limbs. And so I reached out to someone who just worked in my town doing that, to see if I can go and shadow them for the day to learn about what that job is really like. And so they were totally receptive, and I got dressed up in business casual clothes, and I went and just watched them for the day. So it's a really good way just to reach out to people in your community that might have a job that sounds interesting to you, because I think people, they love to share what they're passionate about, and they would love to help someone who's interested, sort of learn more and figure out what that real world is like. And Jodi, I know you had brought up clubs earlier, but I think another thing I would recommend is really taking all of the classes that you can that you're interested in, and then connecting with those professors and connecting with those other students. I know I've met a ton of great peers through the classes that I've taken, and people who have, connected with me later on and asked about my career, or I have asked about their careers, because these are all people who you're building your network with. And I think relying on your professors, if you have an interest in something, and letting them know that you are interested is also a huge thing. I'm also an adjunct at DePaul University teaching health communication. And the only way I got that opportunity was through connecting with my professors, letting them know that was something I was interested in, and really kind of relying on them to help me build my skills in teaching and in education. So I would always recommend, relying on those people that you have in your life.
That's great. Those are all really excellent pieces of advice for our students. So we're going to wrap up, but is there anything else that any of you would like to add, like one last piece of advice you really want to drive home to the kids who are participating in our camp and or their parents? If you have one piece of advice, share it with us.
I think always try to find how you can have fun with something.
I like that. I would say, I think, keep trying to learn new things, because I think that sometimes we, feel good with what we currently know and we don't really seek out new opportunities, new ideas. But I think since all of you signed up for this, clearly you're looking to learn more. So I think that that's a great quality, and to hold on to that. And then to backpack off of that, I would also say find what you're passionate about. And parents, let your kids fail, let them try new things, let them find what they're passionate about, give them that space, because it's not a linear path. Finding what you want in life is not always going to be easy, and there's going to be some roadblocks and some missteps. So spend the time to learn more about yourself and to learn what you actually want to do, and then your passions will carry on with you for the rest of your life.
That's excellent. Well, Jodi, Michelle, Kelly, thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate your time and your expertise, and for sharing your personal background. So thank you. And thanks to our STEM family campers. Hope you'll join us for another one soon.